going. And then I will going. And then, okay. Oh, here we are, we're live. Hi, I'm Metta Spencer, and we're going to Geneva today. I'm in Toronto, but I'm going to have some fun visiting an old friend, Alexander Licotal, who's at his office or home, I think, in Geneva, Switzerland. Hi, how are you?
Hello, Meta. I'm fine, thank you. Great to see you. And that's, yes, indeed, this was my home.
Okay, terrific. So you've got a funny thing in the window, but never mind.
It's the exercise thing.
Oh, okay, good for you. Yeah. All
If
right.
it disturbs you, I can take it off.
Oh, no. I mean, it reminds me that I should do more things myself, yeah, anyway. Okay, so we are going to have a conversation today full of, I don't know, speculation, or maybe you think you have some basis for predicting, but we're going to talk about what the world's going to like when the pandemic is over, right? So.
Okay.
I think the post-COVID world, and everybody seems to speculate about what it's going to be like, and I don't see much consistency in the predictions. So, and in fact, I don't know what to predict myself, except that I bet you Zoom is still going to be in business 10 years from now. Because I think I've really loved that particular innovation. And I bet other people will continue to use it instead of a lot of traveling. I bet they reduce. By the way, are you still being sent on missions for Mikhail Sergeyevich to give lectures? Or you can't now, but when was the last time you went on the speaking jaunt for him?
Well, the sector of this business, lecturing tours, has been down for some time already. I would say that physically, I was traveling for lecturing last time in 2019, almost, yes, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And since that time, I've been just available on Zoom. But that was much more rare occasions than physical traveling. But still, I think that it's gained some force and some power, and people get used to that, and there is a good response to that. Generally, there are lots of different ways of providing the remote lecture with the visual, with the, let me say, feeling of presence in the audience. There are special equipment now for that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are even 3D sort of pictures, video pictures of the lecture, which are transmitted to the audience. But I think that there are, of course, as with everything, there are pluses and minuses to that. Because
the minus is, for me, the big minus is hugs. I haven't hugged anybody in ages. I have wonderful conversations every day, but I'm beginning to miss getting a hug. And there's no substitute.
Okay, I promise I will come to hug you as soon as they will allow that.
Okay, I will look forward to our next meeting whenever that happens. But at any rate, okay, so you have some theories at least, and maybe you have some basis for predicting what you think is going to happen. Is it going to be a better world or worse?
Well, of course, it's just speculation, though, of course, I've been part of some effort which was done by the International Science Association on that matter, and they were preparing a report for the United Nations on that. So there were many scientists involved in that, and they produced a very interesting interim report. We're still working on that. and I was invited exactly to speak about the international impact of that, because I'm not a physician, I'm not a biologist, and there are people who are have a very high profile on that in this group, and the results, interim results, are quite promising. But you know, I have always been, probably you know that we've been already acquainted for many years, that I've always been optimist strategically and pessimist operationally. And it didn't
I
change.
hadn't thought about it that way, but
You know,
okay.
I remember 20 years ago, as we entered the new millennium, I have attended a party with a couple of friends, and a friend of mine who was and is an economist toasted, and he said that he hopes that the next century will be better than the 20th century, because we did such a mess out of the 20th century that there is only the way up now. You know, the difference between, obviously, economists and historians. Economists tend to see progress in terms of the linear ascent of reason. Life becomes more reasonable, better and better. And this is actually the concept of progress. Historians tend to see progress as an ascent through disasters. So I responded to my friend as a historian. I said to him, a lot of people think the way you just said, but that will be the triumph of hope over experience. And it would be more rational to suppose that because I apologize for technically philosophical term, because we have screwed up with every previous century so far, what makes us think that things will be different this time, in this century? So I'm afraid that 20 years now into the new millennium demonstrate that my forecast was more credible, unfortunately. And I would say the summer of this year looks already like, it has become almost apocalyptic, with several biblical horsemen raiding the earth now. From California to Siberia, everything is burning, which can't burn, drowning. Millions are doomed to catch the deadly virus because it's not yet finished. The story is not yet finished. And it is unclear who will survive. More than 200 million people have been infected in the world, and more than 4 million have died already from COVID. And warming by 1.2 degrees Celsius, which was reported by scientists this year already, has led to natural disasters which humanity cannot cope with, as far as I look around. And a state of helplessness gripped the nations, the governments, regardless of their political overtones. Authoritarian rule, democratic nations and governments, COVID and climatic explosion does not differentiate between that at all. And in addition, now we have another problem, which was exacerbated by these two: inequality within states, both, again, both democracies and autocracies. This is not only about monetary inequality, but also about unequal access to education, healthcare, innovation, about gender, about racial inequality. And however, we're still talking about the usual things: nuclear deterrence, conflict, globalization, the struggle for hegemony between the United States and China, Biden and Putin, Ukraine, and you name it.
Yeah.
All this is a trifle against the background of really existential catastrophe and threats to stability, even for developed countries. So let me stop at that. I just described to you my existential pessimism, operational pessimism. But then probably I will talk about some optimistic views strategically.
Well, you know, the thing is that every one of the catastrophes that you're talking about, which are really looming, I mean, it's really hard. Today, just today, there was a new report from the IPCC saying you can't stop. It's going to go to at least 1.5 degrees more, no matter what we do now. It's impossible to prevent it. And if you're really smart, you might limit it to that. But no, you don't have much more time to do that. Well, you know, but every single thing that you've talked about, we have answers to. We know how to prevent all of these things. And yet, what bothers me is stupidity. That people are so damn stupid that they will continue to do irrational things and ignore reality. And that's what do you do about that? That's, you know, that's the problem. I mean, denial, climate denial, or a vaccine denial. I mean, people who don't think you need to protect yourself from the virus or whatever, you know, all of these denial things are just plain crazy. And yet they are not just things that crazy people do. They're things that normal people do. People who are otherwise sane and reasonably productive and good citizens and all of that, and they still do stupid things. And if anything dooms us, Alexander, it's going to be that, our own idiotic human nature.
Absolutely, Meta. I agree with you. And that sort of a bit encourages me to feel more optimistic. Yes, this generation has grown in the belief that history has ended before them. You know, after the Second World War, no big wars, no revolutions. All this was before them. We live in an era of comfort and stability. That's, you know, lullaby of the majority of the people. Everything is calculable. Everything seems to be predictable, almost predetermined, the development. Everything is the same. Boundaries, lifestyles, growing standards of living. We have not learned the shocks of the 20th century. And this, let me say, orphan of the Belle Epoque was a kind of, we summoned a genie, the monster that it failed to cope with. And as a result, the monster has killed it. The post-COVID war, by the way, have you noticed, we're speaking about post-Cold War world, post-Cold War world, now post-COVID world. What does it mean? We even do not have time to put some intellect in order to find the correct terminology for the new, absolutely new paradigm that we are stepping in. And we are calling it like post something. It's like, you know, calling a car a horseless carriage. Doesn't say anything about.
You know, the Cold War, you can certainly say, well, it did seem to go away a while. You know, it certainly, there was a time, there were a few years in which, boy, was I hopeful. And you had every reason to be, because you were right in the center of things. But it's not post now, it's a continuation. And I don't even understand, because I don't know what we're fighting about. What the hell are we fighting with Russia about? I don't know what the issue is. I know some stupid things that both sides are doing, but for example, today, there was I take this thing called Johnson's Russia list, which sends sort of a list of 25 or so articles every day, which I rarely have time for, but there's one where somebody named Artyom Lukin says, well, now there are going to be winners and losers in this climate thing. And Russia shouldn't be ashamed to say that we're going to be the winners. They think that Russia is going to be better off. There was even a thing in the New York Times a few months ago saying, all of that permafrost is going to melt. And so Russia will have all of that land that they can use for agriculture. They have no idea that melting permafrost is going to create methane. That's the worst doom that we have. Besides which, you've got this East Siberian Sea with plumes of methane boiling up out like clouds that you're flying through in a plane. I mean, it's who could be so dumb as to think that that's an asset? Well, okay, but what are we fighting about? You're not even on anybody's side, as far as I can tell, and nor am I. But if we're having a Cold War, at least I knew what the other Cold War was. It was over communism, capitalism versus communism. That was probably most of it. I don't know what it's about now.
I think that there are causes worth, I wouldn't say fighting, but struggling for. And the causes are human freedom, democracy, liberal values, as we understand them. I'm not speaking about neoliberal economics. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about classical liberalism, what it means and how it is used. Therefore, I see the reasons. And I think that modern Russia, I used to have a very good friend who said once to me when I was saying to him that I feel a bit dubious being a Russian. I'm very critical about Russia today. And he told me a wonderful thing that I will never forget. It was more than 20 years ago. And he said, real patriotism is measured by a capacity to be ashamed for disgusting things done in the name of your people. And for me, there is a big gap between Russia, a country, a nation, which I love, which I belong to, and the current regime, which is absolutely has mutilated the society, Russian society. And that's why I think that it's normal to struggle against bad things for good things.
I agree. But I mean, I could almost say I used to feel sorry for Russia. I mean, that's a patronizing phrase, but I did. These poor people don't know what a good government would be like. But, the rest of the world is caught up with Russia. So it isn't really that Russia's so much worse than a lot of other countries now. We've got this nationalistic right-wing, attitude going everywhere. And I'm not sure that Trump wouldn't be reelected today in the US. So what does the US have over Russia? Is Putin better than Trump? Well, he might be. If I had to choose between them, I don't know which I'd pick.
Well, it's always like that. You haven't lived in the modern Russia. And now, for instance, even Trump have not imposed the new laws which make a criminal offense if you had dealt with a journalist or organization 2-3 years ago. And this year, this organization or this journalist was announced to be a foreign agent. Mm-hmm. And then, even if you dealt with him 2-3 years before he was announced a foreign agent, you can be put in jail. How do you like that? I think that Orwell would be, looking in surprise on what's going on today in my country. But you're right, because we all need a kind of a wake-up call, because we are all sleepy with this feeling that, okay, everything is predictable, there are rough things that need to be a little bit polished, otherwise we are safe. There are failure of international institution, but the world is moving swiftly from MDGs to SDGs, from one agenda of G7 to another session of G20. Nothing comes out of it. We have developed a whole set of complicated and elaborate political newspeak that screens us from the real world problems. We are talking about underprivileged people, whatever it means. We don't want even to bother our conscience to say poor people, people struck with poverty, underprivileged people. We are talking about overseas contingency operations like Russia is doing in Syria, United States done also in many parts of the world. It's simply a war, but we're calling it overseas contingency operations. We're talking about targeted killings. Okay, you have chosen a villain, you want to kill him, but in the process, a couple of, wedding ceremonies were destroyed and wrongly targeted, etc. Nature-based solution. I can go on with this new speak, but the fact is we're trying to make our conscience, not to bother us. We have done everything to generalize the problems, thus coupling or decoupling ourselves from genuine human suffering, capacity building, rights-based approach. The future, it seemed, belonged to unbridled globalization, and now it turned that it's an illusion. And I would say COVID has demonstrated that. I have been always against, always skeptical regarding the claim that the world will be different after the crisis. The world is continuously morphing. It has never changed abruptly due to one crisis. The current crisis, as many crises before, will be not so much a turning point, but a catalyst, a kind of activator that will brutally reveal and intensify the tendencies for the transformation of the world, that humans' behavior has already matured and have begun to, these changes have already started to show themselves, to demonstrate themselves in the concrete social and political practices long before the current crisis. However, the crisis by all means will dramatically boost the speed of this change. As a result, I would say that the current world will be seriously changed and much faster than by a calm evolutionary process. But, necessity is the mother of invention. I do not remember who said that, but it reminds me of Samuel Johnson's, quote when he said that, you probably know that, when he said that nothing clarifies the mind better than the prospect of being hanged in a fortnight.
Yes, and there's a Chinese saying to the effect that something like crisis is opportunity. In other words, I read that as meaning you can't necessarily make any big change right now. You have to wait for a crisis to come along, and knock people over the head and make them realize something urgently has to be done. And then maybe you can do it. But it's a good idea to do the planning now, to set it up, work it out what you need to do. And that's what I think we do have to work on, is have enough hope, maybe, to do the kind of planning and foresight so that if the crisis, the problem is with the crisis is it's like, what is it, the boiling frog kind of thing. It's troubles popping up here and there, and it isn't like you can see one thing, like a Wall Street crash is one big day when something big happens, or 9/11, or Pearl Harbor, or you've got Russian equivalents. Those are moments when you can see, okay, something drastic's happened instantly and everything has to shift. But it's more like things boiling around here and there, simmering here and there. And I don't see that it's the kind of thing that's going to create an opportunity.
Absolutely. I would say that the crisis, it has already revealed many new possibilities. It revealed new needs, and it revealed many needs that we do not need at all. Look, I'm sitting now mainly at home. I'm teaching my students at the university already 3 semesters mainly by Zoom and other means, remotely. And I just open my cupboard and I look at the row of my suits, and I'm just thinking, my God, why did I need all that? Now I need just a couple of shirts to change, and you don't see what I'm wearing downstairs, down there, jeans, that's it. So, and it dropped many needs. A pair of jeans is enough. The crisis also inspired innovation that promised better living over the long run, giving us more resilient economies, cleaner cities, and healthier offices. But we should take a minute and just start thinking about what world we want to live in the future, because the future is not preordained. We can influence in certain limits, of course, but we can influence. For instance, staying home when you are sick is here to stay. 3 years ago, I remember, even if you had a flu, it was considered, well, if you can move around, you should come to your office.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Forget about that. Now it's finished. While unnecessary business travel, what we have started with, is not. Lecture business also will be changing very much. How we shop, how we consult with our doctors have changed forever too.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we understand that, whether we want that or not. I think that COVID, let's call it COVID demon, will soon get enough of the victims because of vaccination and things that are going on. I don't know when, but it looks that sometime in the future, it will be more or less over. And, despite all the bad things economically that happened during the COVID pandemics, already almost 2 years, there was no economic collapse.
Yeah.
And with the end of the pandemics, the economic will simply boost on a new basis. There are already symptoms. Governments I think will soon bury the hatchet of a trade war.
Oh, really?
It's useless. It's simply useless. And they will find out that this war does not serve their ends. I will just describe that a little bit maybe later, but I think that I'm just trying to sum up what will be the novelties. I think the helicopter money in some countries will not be canceled and will
Say it
turn
again. The helicopter what?
money, the money which was paid to the people just as a donation.
Oh, I hadn't heard that
In
expression
the
before.
United States, 1.2 thousand each person which received this money. This is called the helicopter money.
I hadn't got that, but they sent me some, even though I live in Canada.
Yeah, well, there was some, not much in Switzerland and in many European countries as well. But I think that it will turn gradually into universal basic income.
Well, I have actually made that prediction myself, and I think
Yeah,
it's not even very far in the future. I mean,
absolutely,
even
absolutely.
probably the next elections, we're going to see arguments about that.
You know, Switzerland, 4 or 5 years ago, they wanted to have an experiment, but the citizens of Switzerland voted against
Mhm.
this experiment because they thought that this change will downgrade the competitiveness of the Swiss economy. But now it's again in the votes this September, and the probes, the polls say that a little more than 50% are going to support that.
Mhm.
And very soon, I think central banks will have to raise interest rates to avoid overheating of the economy. There has been a lot of hype lately around the so-called decentralized finance, an ecosystem of blockchain-based products and services replacing traditional financial intermediaries with some affordable and very spread software on the computers. There were, of course, blatant skepticism, there were confusion, there were crime around that. Only there was a scam with the South African crypto platform recently, AfriCrypt. However, the dry numbers show the growth of not only the hype, the total value of assets enclosed in decentralized finances increased from about 680 million in January 2020 to 45 billion in March this year.
Okay, you're going to have to help me because I'm not following. Decentralized finance. I'm not sure what you're talking about, frankly.
I'm talking about the blockchain principle and
Yeah.
the digital money, which exists today already. China has introduced the Chinese digital yuan this year already. In many countries, they have accepted that as a normal way of payment, and it exists everywhere now, practically in the majority of the countries.
Okay, I have not really fully understood blockchain, or even very much.
You know, frankly speaking, I do not understand how it is generated as well. I'm not an expert in the field. I simply know that Elon Musk supported that, and he now sells Tesla for Bitcoins.
Who is this person?
Elon Musk. Elon Musk. You know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
He is
Yeah.
the couple of
Yes.
and the first commercial space
Tesla,
shuttle, and also produces Tesla cars.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they
Yeah,
call
the
him,
only-
the Leonardo of the 21st century.
Okay, good. I'm not opposed to it. It's just I'm not understanding it. But what I believe is a problem with it is, at least now, it's extremely helpful to crooks, because if for example, there's some sort of ransomware attack and people want millions and billions of dollars to be transferred to them, they put it into a blockchain thing and you can't trace it. So I think, now my question really is, and I don't know whether you know the answer, can't they require everybody using blockchain to make their identity known so that they could trace them? Because if you just leave it that open, it's like, there are a couple of big controversies that are equally, I can see arguments on both sides. That's one of them. But, there's another one about, well, I won't go there. So if we tightened it up so that we could find out where the money went, if a ransomware attack led to a big transfer of money, that might help with this cyber risk thing, because I think the cyber threats are not minor. They're really, and it's not just financial, of course.
I agree completely. And of course, cyber security today is one of the biggest questions. And we know that it was on the discussion desk of the last meeting between Biden and Putin here in Geneva. And now both sides want to do something about that. But I think that today, this is not something, this blockchain and all the rest, that it is just accumulated in the hands of the bad people. Governments have also hackers. They can use cyber attacks as well as the hackers. And for the contingencies much worse than trafficking and hidden transactions that are taking place nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Frankly speaking, I think that I read somewhere that the price of the current terrorism overall price is roughly $80 billion annually. Can you imagine that $80 billion can be moved around the world in normal currencies unnoticed? I can't. And that means that they have allies in many structures. Probably, that's my
we hear all the time from the Western point of view here in North America. What we hear is, Russia, the Russian government, Putin personally, is in control of and directing all of these nefarious Russian hackers and all of the ransomware and other kinds of threats that they do, including attacking Estonian, or Ukrainian power grids and all kinds of things. And there was an attack in the US a while back. Have
you heard about the attack in Russia?
Well, that's the thing. I would bet that it's a mutual thing, that once it's not good guys and bad guys, it's both. But the thing that is interesting is that, Putin has been proposing, maybe for 10 years, some agreement about cyber regulation. And I think people in the US did not listen to him because they don't trust him. I don't either. But he's been more forthcoming about proposing some kind of UN treaty or regulation of some kind. And I'm very skeptical about what can be done. I have no idea. But I wouldn't turn my nose up at that. I would get really down to talking seriously about it.
No doubt about that, Meta. I agree with you, and that's why it's on the agenda of the negotiations now. And for me, it seems that both sides are taking it very seriously, and they have already started the working meetings of the group, which was assigned to that, and they're discussing that. But I want to return to what we were talking. I mean, what we will be facing in the next couple of, if not months, then couple of years.
Mhm.
Offline retail is going to die like dinosaurs, simply. You know, e-commerce growed in 3 months at a speed of 10 years. E-commerce, because of the, e-commerce existed before COVID.
I'm not
Electronic,
hearing you. Eco what?
e-commerce, electronic
E-commerce,
commerce.
yeah, okay.
Well, you
Yeah,
ordered some
yeah, it's like
food or anything
Amazon,
on the
yeah.
internet. That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
get
mean.
stuff.
And it
Yeah,
has
almost
grown in
every
the last 3 months like more than it has grown in the past 10 years.
No
And
kidding.
companies,
Why? Why
well,
most, because
well, because you and I were sitting at home, we're not going to the shops, and it's easier today to order something from, you know, electronics to consumer goods to food on internet.
but I've been doing that for 3 years now, practically.
Yeah, no, so
So,
you were part of this, statistics for the last 10 years. I
sure.
have started doing that with COVID because before that, my wife preferred to go to the grocery and to choose, to look at the groceries and to buy what she wants. But now it's over. At first, it will seem that everything has been restored. But then buyers who have tried online shopping will finally lose interest in retail stores. This is not the beginning of the trend, it is its end. The internet will become the main sales channel for any good, from pencils to cars and real estate. You know, during the COVID, I've changed my car. I bought it on the internet. I didn't have to go even to the car dealer. And I think that makes what it makes important, last mile logistics. It will become basic infrastructure like electricity, like transportation, like running water. Developers will begin not only to set the distribution centers or at least the public parcel lockers in the projects of each locality where the new houses are being built, but also to immediately conclude an agreement with a logistics company, possibly even subsidizing it, because it will attract the buyers to the. When buying any real estate, the buyer will check the local rates for high-speed internet, as well as the number of delivery services and restaurants ready to deliver to this location. It would
Okay.
change mentality of the people. Private and public parcel lockers in private and apartment buildings will become as commonplace as regular mailboxes are.
Well, we have it here. I'm in a high-rise condo, and
Exactly.
and I have not. I don't know whether I told you, I haven't been out of this apartment in almost 18 months. I went to the garbage chute once about a year and a half ago at midnight. That's it. I do not go out, and I don't want to particularly resume my old lifestyle. I'm just very happy with this. But
Yeah.
I would have to say, my original argument was that it's going to be good for global warming in that you won't have to keep 3 different locations, the warehouse, then the retail store, and then your home. It will go directly from the warehouse to your home and
And
leave
you will
out this
not
other
to
thing.
have people working for that sorting in the post office,
Right.
receiving you, giving you the parcel or whatever.
But the problem is, I buy tons of things from Amazon. Unlike you, who just resorted to shirts and jeans, I keep buying things that I have no earthly justification for. And but And the worst is that they're not very, okay. This is a tube of lipstick. Somebody brought this specially to my door and left it for me. One whole trip to bring this one tube of lipstick. And the same day, I had about 5 other things that I ordered from Amazon. They came from different warehouses, I gather. Therefore, they were not combined. I could have waited weeks or months to get this lipstick. It wasn't important. But so why don't they combine it and bring it in one trip? No. So when I talk to somebody about are we saving gas or, CO2 emissions by this system? He said the jury's not out, is still out. They don't know because there's so many separate trips they make to do things like deliver one tube of lipstick, that unless they get more rational about combining things, it's not clear that they're actually saving gas. Now,
Yeah, I can tell you that we are living in interregnum. We're leaving the previous system. We are entering a new one. And now we are privileged to face how it happens. And I see how it happens already. They are testing worldwide in many countries, self-driving cars.
mhm.
In Moscow, Amazon already is delivering goods by robots.
But robots, I knew they were going to do things with drones. What kind of
drones
robots?
as well, but robots as well.
What do they look like, these robots?
Robots.
Yeah, but what do they look like? Are they on wheels or?
No, it's like a dog with 4 legs.
Really?
And it runs already around the streets, and they're testing it. It's already in the streets, and they deliver that to you.
Oh, I want one.
No, well,
I miss my dog. I'll get a pet robot.
That's what I'm saying. We are talking about being in the interregnum. We still use the things that we are used to, and we extrapolate thinking that in the future this service will be delivered the same way. It will not.
Yeah.
The cars, self-driving cars, it's already, knocking in our doors. It will be here in no time at all. You talked about blockchain. I think that soon everything will be on blockchain, including democracy, system of democracy, because you just trust your opinion and it cannot be manipulated at all. Guaranteed. That is something, and gives opportunity to express your opinion not once every 4 years, but much more frequently. It gives a possibility to absolutely new system of democracy, but that's a totally different subject, and I do not want to touch in a very, abrupt way. I think
No,
that
but I want to explore that because that is new, maybe not absolutely alien to me, but I really don't know much about it at all. How would I find more out about that? You're saying that like public opinion polls would be reflected somehow in this blockchain thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even today, in fact, we are expressing our opinion dozens of times a day. When you are reading Facebook, when you're reading other social media, you put your likes, dislikes, or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And that's how you express your opinion and preferences. Today, it is being commodified by these companies, that's for sure. But blockchain, not about commodification of your opinion. It's simply an absolutely trustworthy possibility to to keep anything, money, opinion, whatever you just name it, and everything will be there on internet. And
Sorry, but I want to know, do you use passwords? Do you use your own name? How do you guarantee that it will not be something that somebody can hack?
well, just, to give you a very, very, general picture of that. Blockchain is a system when you write something on the internet, say, or for instance, you have an agreement with somebody, you sell or you buy a home for you. Mm-hmm. And you don't go to the notary, you just do it on blockchain. And this system disperses this information around the world in a coded way, but it exists. It resides in the computers of millions of people, and not a single person is capable to amend anything in this bit of information. And if there is a conflict of something and they say, no, it was not the way, it's easy with the pushing of the button to check whose opinion is equal to the millions which were already invested in the different parts of the world.
Say, I want to make a deal with you and we do this, but maybe let's say a burglar comes in and gets at my computer and tampers with my computer and makes the deal with you. How are we going to know that it was not me?
No, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's not, it doesn't matter, because if one bit of information is corrupt, millions of the same bit of information on millions of computers is untouched. And it's clear to establish where is the true verifiable bit of information.
And it can't be hacked.
No.
Okay.
That is blockchain system. And I think, of course, there are still many technical problems. I also not an expert. When I talk to IT person and they try to explain to me how it works, I have just a glimpse of the feeling that I do understand. In reality, I understand that it is extremely complicated system. That's one of the problems, because for me, for instance, I understand what is needed for, democratic system to be reset, to satisfy the requirements of the modernity, because now, the system of democracy is obsolete, and that's why we have authoritarianism, we have imitational democracy in different parts of the world and the rest of it. But I do not know anything in reality, though I can explain to you, but I don't understand that. You remember this joke? I want to tell you the joke. The name of Kosygin rings the bell. Alexei Kosygin, no? He was a prime minister at the Brezhnev time.
Kosygin.
Alexei Kosygin.
Sure. Yeah.
He was the prime minister.
Yeah.
And Brezhnev complains to him, listen, Alexei, I do not understand how socialist economy works. And Kosygin, being a prime minister, said, Mr. Secretary General, I can explain to you. And Brezhnev just rebuffs him. No, I can explain it. I want to understand it. So with blockchain,
I want to understand it too, because see, the other thing, I'm so scared of the vulnerability that we have of becoming so dependent on our computers, because I mean, I have spent so many thousands of hours fighting my computer and so on. And I think it's now more and more complicated, so complicated now that even the experts often can't explain it or even straighten it out. So I worry that, especially with the coming of these, what do they call it? But uh, where everything is all hooked to everything else. The vulnerability is they knock out, the internet or some part of it, and you're really sunk. Just like knocking out your electric grid or your sewers or your water system or something like that. I mean, we're so vulnerable.
We are still not very vulnerable, even including artificial intelligence, because according to what people who are working in this area, they say that so far artificial intelligence cannot be even developed to the level of intelligence of a cat. Not to say about the dog, which is 4 times more intelligent. And of course, it's not yet, so far, I do not believe in all these dramatic stories that artificial intelligence will start revolution against humans, etc. It's fiction, even not a science fiction.
I don't know. I know a guy who's a very important person in that movement. He invented something called back propagation 50 years ago as his PhD thesis at Harvard. And it is now the basis for what they call the new AI, which I don't understand at all. But he thinks there are things to worry about. And I believe him. He was one of the guys at the National Science Foundation who was in charge of deciding who gets what grants. So he really had a lot of authority in those days, and he worries about it. But he worries about a lot of other things too. So we can always take our pick of which things to be worried about today.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I think that there are plenty of things to be worried about. And one of the things that make me worry, that almost an hour we have been discussing the introduction to what we planned to discuss. I mean, the impact on the world of the COVID and all these things. But it's so interesting. It's endless. And talking
Listen,
about
don't let me shut you off, because let's go ahead and finish this if we have to. I distract people. I know I raise side questions. So I've kept you from saying what you really want to say. Let's go ahead.
No. I'm not complaining. I'm just simply
I-
saying. I thought that you have a strict schedule. So.
Well, we do, but I can play with it. Believe me, I can make this into 2 shows or something if we need to.
To finish with the internet and this blog. On the internet, one person said recently, everything looks permanent until it is not. And it is changing as technology evolves. The most profound and destabilizing change is likely to be in the transition from centralized internet to decentralized internet. Just to explain to you, centralized services typically are run by companies or institutions such as Facebook, Twitter, Amazon. This is centralized internet.
Mm-hmm.
There is a command structure, there is a boss, and changes can be made by deliberate decision of this company.
Mm-hmm.
Like Facebook decided to deprive Trump of possibility to publish his stupid announcements on Facebook. That was a deliberate decision. In this parlance, even Wikipedia counts as centralized, though the editors and contributors are scattered around the world. Now, decentralized services are harder to define, but 2 simple examples may be helpful. The first is email. You are using email, I know that. which consists of networks of rules and interconnections not owned by any one company or institution, even though your email provider might be. But the process is not owned by anybody. And the second is the internet, the World Wide Web itself, unless a majority, you know, decide to move in a different direction, which is impossible, but it is a series of protocols with a huge amount of stuff built on top of it.
Mhm.
It's algorithmic, not owned by anybody. And it will be self-developing, not according to the whims of the CEO of a corporation or anybody else. And when I hear somebody discuss the future of the internet, the most common question is, what kind of company or service is coming next? And I can tell you, I think that one of the examples of this decentralized service is Clubhouse. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I don't know a thing about it.
Yeah, it's the audio discussion forum it was one of the recent innovations of social media. And there are already a lot of replications. Telegram following suit, WhatsApp trying to do the same, and others. So actually, going from that on, some of the employees and entire organizations have switched to remote work. You know that.
Mhm.
Already known that roughly 30% of those organizations will not be coming back to physical work. The
Mhm.
companies have already said, no, we do not need to rent space to do all that. We are quite satisfied with that. And this will truly globalize the labor market. Qualified personnel from all regions and later from around the world will have access to jobs anywhere in the world without relocation. And with Google Translate, they will not need even the language knowledge. I mean, the good language knowledge, because it's easy. I am using that. Well, I speak English more or less.
Well, you
Right?
certainly do, but I'm thinking, I still think Google Translate has a way to go. I mean, they're sure better than most of the others. It
But
was a huge leap forward a couple of years ago but
think
I still
about
miss things.
the vacations, need to pay for vacations of the people. With these people, you don't pay for vacations. Think
Yeah.
about the pension funds. You are not contributing.
Yeah.
And in the future, when artificial intelligence will be available already, it will be practically free substitute for office labor. There are very interesting books on these subjects published recently. And the perspectives are immeasurable and immense. Salaries in such jobs will depend more on the demand for skills and intellect rather than on work time and the region of residence.
Mhm.
That's it. And it changes completely the work system of the people. But it's again a different story. I just, touching the tops of various things, but I have a course on these issues for the students.
Really?
Full. Yeah, it's 28 hours. So
Really?
it's quite in-depth thing, and it's extremely interesting. They like it very much. Well,
What,
anyway,
what is your projection about unemployment? Because I think there's a controversy there. In fact, that what I'd like to get an article discussing that controversy for Peace Magazine. I don't know who would do it, but we have a new feature in the magazine called Current Controversies, where we try to discuss things that are really at issue. And I think about maybe half of the people I know say there's going to be a lot of unemployment because even professors will be replaced with, computers or, prepackaged lecture series and things. And
no,
surgeons and so
never. That will never happen. And universities will be needed physically because university produces not only expertise, it produces not only specialists in various walks of the life, it produces something intangible but very important, world views of the students. And in order to produce that, the student must be submerged into atmosphere of a university. You cannot do it, online.
virtually. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Well, there you've taken one side because I hear people with that point of view. And also people say, well, it's like when horses got replaced by automobiles, there's still jobs for people making cars, etc. And so we can expect the same thing at the next step. But other people say, no, that there's going to be a real shortage of certain kinds of jobs, if not all. And then we got to figure out what to do to give people a worthwhile life. And I think it's a really interesting question. You've already expressed your view. No, go ahead.
Well, actually, I think that it's overestimated, this problem, of the people losing the jobs. More and more people are working not just for money. I understand that there are plenty of people that are working in order to make their living, that's for sure. But just recently, we talked about the minimum wage, which maybe will be paid to every person in the country. In Switzerland, they are talking about roughly 4,000-5,000 Swiss francs per month, every person. It will not give you a luxurious life, but you will not be starving. You will not be, having what to wear, and you will not be deprived of possibility to send your children to school. But if you want something more luxurious, you have to do something creative. That will be always important in any society, because it cannot be substituted so far by artificial intelligence. And that means that those who are not capable, do not want, satisfied with minimum wage, they cannot work. They will not be starving. They will not be hungry. But those who won't work will have this opportunity. Listen, I'm retired. I do not need to work. I have enough of my pension to have, the life full of trips, going to, I don't know, Hawaii or Maldives or whatever. But I'm bored with that.
Of course.
You also doing that not for money completely.
Certainly not for money. I pay my own way.
And that means that the people will be accumulating portfolios of occupation. Something will be paid. Like for instance, when I'm doing lecturing, it is being paid. When I'm teaching the students, it is paid less generously, but still paid. When I'm conferencing, talking to different university students, it is not paid. And in addition to that, people will accumulate the portfolios of occupation. Part of it will be paid occupation, let us say maybe 7 hours per week. Some of it will be pro bono. Something will be associated with the charity of your choice. And that will keep people occupied and focused on what they are inclined to do, they want to do, rather than they have to do. So in fact, there will be, of course, problems, and there are lots of things to upgrade in terms of training, of the refocusing of the workforce on different new work positions that will be available. It is all there, but generally, the underlying of that, this will not be a source of crisis. And the source of crisis could be if we again screw up, and if we do not draw the necessary lessons with the change of the international system, which has become obsolete, very outdated, and it just opposes any possibility of adapting the international relations to the absolutely new phase with new actors of this international relations, with plurilateral system, not just, a chessboard, like Scowcroft was saying, Kissinger and many others. It will be 3D chess, or maybe, 5D chess, with many, many layers connected not only horizontally, but vertical as well. Look at the coronavirus. Who dealt with that? Cities and regions. In the United States, who dealt? Trump? No. It was New York, it was California, it was Los Angeles, etc., etc. Why?
Yeah, but I don't think that was a good idea. I mean, it was because Trump was so ineffective that he pushed those decisions off onto other people, where if he'd been smart, he would have taken a leadership role.
I can tell you that in my judgment, it was a good idea. I can give you a different example. I live in Geneva. That's the border with France. When COVID exploded, the hospital places in neighboring France were taken in a jiffy, all of it. All hospitals were full and there were no beds, hospital beds for that. And there were roadblocks between the nations, between Switzerland and France, and nothing could be done. And then Geneva and Lyon came together and signed an agreement that Geneva wants to help, and Lyon by helicopters, by trains which were rebuilt into sanitary trains, were delivering the sick people to Geneva, and Geneva clinics helped that. That's what can be done on a local level, while on the major central level, it cannot be done. Think about the security issues. You live in the neighborhood. Who knows better if some strange face comes in your surrounding, your neighbors? I am on a group on Facebook of my community in Geneva. And each time somebody noticed something strange, he says, look, be cautious. There was an attempt of a burglar in a neighboring house or something. The person who did it looks like, and then the description. Police, central police, is picking up this information from the neighborhood people. So I think with the possibility of the social networks, of the possibility of people, sharing this information in real time with everybody who lives there is very important. And it creates new opportunities, which cannot be resolved in a centralized structure as before. So I think that the future will be, as who was that? Parag Khanna wrote a book about that, very interesting book about, he says, the concept of 5 C's: companies, commonwealths, cities, something else and else, 5 segments, which will be substituting states in the future. And I feel already the nucleus of this process.
Okay, I'm ready to go there. I like that.
Listen, you are a historian by training,
I'm
philosopher,
a sociologist.
sociologist, but that means both philosophy and this history as well. But the modern system, the sovereignty, national, belonging to a state sovereignty, was created only in 1648. That's the Peace of Westphalia, after the 30 years religious war in Europe. And it existed for 300 years. We did not have that before. And if something was created by people, that means that it will not be endlessly developing. So I think we are approaching a new, absolutely new system of the organization of the international relations. But again, I don't think that we should abuse the time of those few who will watch that. Maybe next time we can
listen, I may do something like take this and keep pieces for some other, I don't know how to do it. But
Okay.
but I don't want to cut you off, because this is, especially this thing about alternative ways of organizing that are not territorially bound, that are not draw lines on a map, but relationships among networks.
You can make a roadmap only when you have discovered the land. This is not yet discovered space. There are no roadmaps.
But we do. We already have our social groups on Facebook, for example.
Yes.
We already have our websites and the links between them and the connections. We have our networks, and my network is absolutely global. I'm sure yours is even more global.
Our networks, Meta, are still in the kindergarten age. It will be totally different, and very soon, both of us will see it.
Say this again.
We both will
We'll see
that.
How soon? I mean, tell me more. Go on. I'm not going to shut you up. You're going to have to leave on your own accord. Okay. But what makes you think that there's going to be a different kind of network? That see, I'm more pessimistic than you are. You told me that you were operationally an optimist, and everything you've said lately.
Vice versa. Operationally
positive, and I'm concerned about the fact that, for example, Facebook won't let me reach out to and post this. Probably Facebook will say that I cannot pay to advertise this very show because this is about social issues. And they say you can't talk about politics or anything serious. They want me to show pictures of my breakfast or my cat or something, and that's about it. But sometimes they let me through, but sometimes they don't. And it's very annoying because I can't fight them. They are really big and powerful, and I can't win. And the same when it comes to, for example, I will want to send out a poster with your picture on it and promote this. People should, we have a mailing list of over 6,000 now. And I want to send out a poster describing this so that people will watch. The problem is there are laws about spamming. So this will be considered spamming. And I can't get the messages out that I want. Theoretically, the people are always complaining about the loss of privacy. I'm complaining about the fact that I'm constantly being censored. You know, our conversation, in effect, will be censored by Facebook. And it isn't the loss of privacy that bothers me. It's the fact I can't talk to the people I want to reach.
You know, first of all, that's exactly about the difference between centralized networks like Facebook and the new system, decentralized system, where there are no bosses, which is evolving. If you are so annoyed by Facebook, many people are switching to Telegram, which is much less regulated than Facebook, for instance. And it has already, of course, it doesn't have 3 billion members like Facebook, but I don't think that you need to reach to 3 billion people with what you are writing. In any case, I doubt that 3 billion are reading everything that everybody is publishing. So this is the first thing. And we will see the decentralized version of this very soon, in a matter of maybe a couple of years, 1-2 years. Because already there are examples of these decentralized social networks and systems which do exist. And generally, I think that, in fact, as always, what's important is what you can deliver. If I'm interesting for somebody, I'm sure that I will reach these people. But I don't think that I'm interesting for 60,000 or whatever. The people who would be interested in this layman perspective, which I'm trying to formulate, is much less, of course.
Well, but that's because people are stupid. I told you that's the problem. People are not interested in theorizing and intellectual, cognitive work, which is sort of what this is. But we're back to, here I could change the subject completely and go back to telling you that, remember when we were going to try to make a television show about Green Cross International?
Of course, yes.
I'm still trying, I'm back to trying to do it because I'm convinced that I spend all my time doing these extremely interesting conversations with very important people. I just did one with Lloyd Axworthy, the former foreign minister of Canada. And I've got one coming up with Jack Matlock, I'll tell you about, et cetera. I've got all these really high-powered people with very interesting ideas, and you. And then, so but people are not that interested. And that's the problem. They don't base their intellectual work, their decisions on intellectual information, but on emotions. And so we have to actually put stuff out that people will want to watch because it's entertaining and emotionally satisfying. So I'm back into trying to create a show, but I'm going to do it now on YouTube. I'm going to do it now right here in my building. I'm going to go around with the camera and I'll have my friends play the parts, and I'm lining up people to do the script writing. I'll be back in touch with you about it.
Great. Thank you very much, Mary. It's such a pleasure always to talk to you.
Oh, I just love talking to you too. So we'll do it again soon. I want to take that course, 26 weeks, you say, of a course on what the world is going to be like after COVID.
26 seminars, lectures, seminars, and 2 exams. Don't forget that.
Oh, I'll take the exam. You'll pass me, I know. Okay, this has been great fun. And I'll send you the edited version sometime soon. Okay,
Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day.